Get it it's you and it's me you love. You never know. You never know.
I'm Dominic Patten from Deadline Hollywood. Welcome to the very first of our Stella Artois Sundance lounges. Actually, I tell a lie. We did one yesterday. I didn't do it, so it's the very first one for me. Today's a very, very special day for us. We've been doing this for a number of years with Stella. They're an amazing partner for us. And if you guys want to take pictures and what have you, always remember to hashtag it Stella Moments. Capital S, capital M. It's a big thing we're doing this year, and we're talking to people about the moments for them in their films. Today is a very special moment because someone who I just think the world of is here and has just broken a Sundance record. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the writer, star of Late Night, Ms. Mindy Kaling. And Mindy, would you like to introduce our other guest?
Yes, the person whom, if she was not here, we would not have made the movie. Person dear to my heart, Nisha Ganatra, the director of Late Night.
Now, I'm going to start right off with this because it was a pretty late night for you guys last night. These guys had, Late Night has been bought by Amazon. It is a Sundance record-breaking deal. I can tell you because Deadline's Mike Fleming broke it. It was $13 million, which is, I mean, Bezos has money.
Jeff Bezos.
And that's amazing. That's amazing. So give us a sense of, you guys premiered last night, and now the sales happen. That's a pretty great way to start a Sundance. How did it all go down?
We were so excited with the reception of the movie last night.
Yes, it was incredible. And we woke up at, they were wheeling and dealing all night, and at 5 a.m.
We found out that Amazon had bought the movie, so we're thrilled.
For you, with all, and we're going to talk about the movie, and how many of you guys saw the movie? That's what I'm talking about. And we'll talk about the movie later, but in a lot of ways, it feels, and I've known you for a while, this feels just like, boom, like you scored it, But no, really, because this is a film that came out of a lot of your own experiences. And how does it feel for you to have got a record-breaking deal like that?
Well, I think both Nisha and I really revere Sundance and what they're trying to do. And I grew up as a teenager in my 20s hearing about Sundance, and I just really put it on a pedestal. Actually, all of filmmaking, because I come from TV. So it feels...
You don't know TV. I'm a TV critic.
No, listen. But it's like, it's like film and TV, they're pretty different. The
They're
vibe.
very segregated up until just a very, very short time ago.
Totally. And so for me, it feels extremely glamorous, and I'm just so grateful and excited for more people to see the movie.
Nisha, for you... Last night, you guys, I'll be honest, you guys, even if you haven't seen the film, I'm going to give you the two-word review. It's awesome. And Late Night, it's awesome. Dominic Patten, Deadline Hollywood. But what did it feel like for you? I guess part of the thing is what I love about Sundance is a place where stuff happens in the moment, And last night, less than 24 hours ago, you guys haven't even debuted the movie. And now already you've made this massive deal. I guess you get prime shipping for life. And that, but how did that feel for you as a director?
It was incredible. Sundance has been a dream for so long. It is just the thing you grow up, you just read about, and you dream about it, and you look at all the pictures, and you read about this magical place called the Eccles, and to know our film premiered there, and it was the first time we got to show it to an audience. Watching the audience watch it, all you want is for everyone to see your movie when you put so much into it, and that was just blew us away. But also, there was some pressure of having a female-driven movie with two female leads, and everybody talking about, it always seems to be like, will there be an audience for a female-driven movie? Will there, and to have the record-breaking deal for a female-driven movie, that is amazing.
And there's another element of that we should talk about too, which is you guys, and you really didn't blow a trumpet about it, but you showed up in the final credits. You guys had gender equity behind the camera on this film. A female director, obviously, but a female writer, obviously, but in all the departments, which is an amazing accomplishment, which deserves a round of applause too, I might add.
Yes, there's a stamp you should all be looking for at the end of films called Reframe. Women in Film started it, and it's gender balanced production. So behind the camera, it means gender balanced crews and equal, gender balance behind the camera as well as in front.
It literally is putting your money where your morals are.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, there's some familiar old faces in the film from Late Night, from the Mindy Project and other places, but Emma Thompson, let's talk about the film. Mindy, if you could give us the synopsis of your movie.
Synopsis. I have been incredibly bad at this. I'm gonna let Nisha do it, which is crazy.
Aren't you secretly at night writing the Wikipedia entry?
I should be, but Nisha, why don't you please explain the movie?
Okay, so Emma Thompson plays the first female late-night talk show host on a network, and her show has hit a slump, and she has no women on her staff, and she hires the plucky Mindy Kaling as her sort of diversity hire, who she thinks is just filling a quota, but then comes to revitalize the show. And the two women have a lot to learn from each other, and they bring success.
That sounds really good.
Really good summary.
Sounds great.
That fits in a tweet. Yeah. That's incredible, right? Hashtag nailed it. But. And in that, there's a couple things I would add to that, though. Is
beautiful, plucky protege played by Mindy Kaling.
Brilliant directing.
Yes, brilliant directing.
Incredible writing.
Lots of great street scenes of New York.
The best performance Emma Thompson
But
has
one
ever
element of it, too, is Emma's character, Catherine, she's actually... There's a little bit of fantasy playing there because, of course, she is a longtime female late-night host, which kind of has never happened, right? I mean, especially not on the networks. Joan Rivers, obviously, for a very short period of time, but not long-term. And part of it is she's been on, I think it's 28 years she's been on the air, and that's part of what the slump is. And part of what it is Emma does play a British woman, and there's elements of snobism. Certain guests she has where people are like, that's not who I would have put on. Jimmy Fallon had, some guy who can fart out of his foot, And John Lithgow plays her husband, who's an NYU professor. I wanted to get a sense of how that was for you writing those characters, and were you writing with those actors in mind?
Well, Emma, for sure, I was writing in mind. I started writing this movie about 3.5 years ago. I've never met her before. I just loved her and just decided to do this insane thing of writing a script with her in mind, that in a part that only she could play. And I've been saying it was like I did fan fiction and I would play the other character, and it's sort of creepy. But then I finished it and sent it to her, and she wanted to do it. But she was always the person to play that part. And she's kind of, her part and my part were the only two people that I knew for certain we wanted. Oh, really? And everyone else we just came kind of through our amazing casting directors. Like,
yeah. Emma Thompson was a dream for everybody, and she comes from comedy. She did stand-up when she first started. She had an improv troupe in college. It's been a long time since we've seen her. I flew to London to meet her she's Emma Thompson. You fly to London to meet her and say, how's the movie? And her mom was in the other room, and her mom yelled out, are you going to play another good woman in an ugly frock? And she just sort of said...
Distinctly no in this case. Yes,
distinctly no.
But, you have John Lithgow, you have Amy Ryan. Part of the notion of this is there's, as we're now over a year into the Me Too and Time's Up era, and hopefully evolving even greater after that in many different ways. One of the things that the film explores is how women aren't always the best kinfolk to each other. And that's I want to get a sense of that, because that's a discussion people don't often have.
No, I mean, it's really easy to slip into a place when you start out in your career where you're like, listen, I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. I only want to help myself. I'm scared to help anybody else. And then what you realize as you become more successful is that you have to. It behooves you to do that. And the movie is so much about women helping other women, and about mentorship, but learning how to become a mentor, and
Emma's character is, I think you said earlier, it was so beautifully said, that sometimes you feel like just my existence is contribution enough when you get to the successful place, and it's not. And I think there's this false lie that everybody's been sold, that there's this zero-sum game, there's only room for one person of color at the table, there's only room for one woman at the table, and it's a lie.
That was that famous Tina Fey quote about women writers. What is
it's
it?
like a cappuccino machine.
I have a cappuccino machine, why do I need another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this movie is really about, like, when you get in and when you're successful, to open the door behind you and usher in as many other people as possible, and that we all rise together, and that Emma's character really benefits from helping Mindy's character, and that Mindy's character obviously benefits from Emma's, but that we hold each other's destinies in each other's hands, so let's all work together and help each other all break in.
Well, I think we're going to end the panel now, because it doesn't really get better than that, does it? But another element to the film, though, too, is in all that, there's also some very interesting discussions about culture and many other things. And one thing I found particularly interesting is, obviously you've had a long, long career in comedy, and you've had a long, long career in television. You were Better Things and Transparent and many other great shows. You talk a little bit about the dumbing down of the culture. And I kind of wanted to get my head around that, because I agree with you, but I really want to get your take on it.
Well, that's Emma's character's position, is that there's been a dumbing down of the culture, and that she has certain kinds of guests and she wants the world to see them as well. And we hope that the movie says, like, that is very valid, but also you can't be someone who only wants to have Doris Kearns Goodwin on your talk show, but reviles Twitter or Snapchat or Instagram, which is something that she does. It's like she learns that she kind of has to grow. And my character also learns a ton of lessons coming into a writer's room. But yeah, that was probably one of the most delicious things to write, was her disdain for the dumbing down of culture. Like, I love that she has that streak of snobbery in her. It was really fun to write.
But also, what I think was interesting is, it also came across not just as snobbery, but there also was a degree of insight to it too. Is these are some issues. Like, so when the network wants her to, I'm in a conflict now if I can give away a plot point or not. Let's just say there are discussions about her future.
Yes.
And the network basically want her to compete more on the level of, say, a Jimmy Fallon or a Jimmy Kimmel. Both of them are great guys. But and
have great shows.
And have great shows
that we love.
On Emma or Catherine's show, they don't do beer pong jokes, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or beer pong games. And that, there was an issue I found very interesting about that, about what people think is culture, and it was generational as well as intellectual.
I agree with you.
I love that.
No, I agree with you. I think it was, I don't. It's funny because when you write a character who has those opinions, it sort of feels like, oh, the writer must have them as well. But I find a lot of times I was siding with Amy Ryan, which is like, you can't isolate yourself and decide that you're, put yourself on your own pedestal.
I should say Amy Ryan plays the head of the network.
Oh yes, Amy Ryan plays the head of the network, who is telling Emma's character that her show has now gotten kind of like obsolete to the average person. And I think that Emma's character has like disdain for the average person, and that's part of the thing. I mean, that's, the head of the network is correct, and we wanted to show that the different people in the movie are correct at different times, and they all kind of have to grow together.
Yes, I think you should talk about intersectional feminism now. It's very marketable.
Yeah.
But, it is this interesting thing about the culture, because we do, ask ourselves too, like, okay, do we not dumb ourselves down, because that is Catherine's position. Emma's character is named Catherine. But what's happening is, what is it with this talk of we're in a bubble, we're in California, we're in this elite industry, where it's like, this sort of notion that we took on this label of elite bubble people, where the truth is, like, I go to work every day and I work with gay people, people of color, immigrants, I'm not in a bubble. Like, the middle of the country is in a little bit of a bubble sometimes, or not the middle of the country, but what's being called the middle of the country. So how do we sort of find common ground with each other and not talk about it like it's dumbing down?
Looking for the Venn diagram, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does it all overlap?
Late Night 2, Venn diagram, The Reckoning. Part of that, though, too, is in all that, and we should say all this, it's an incredibly entertaining movie, and it's funny, and I know you got to go heavy, but that's
it's
really
kind of like an old-fashioned, like it's an old-fashioned like
adult
kind
comedy,
of
like
comedy,
smart
and
people talking about really important things and interesting things and making each other laugh. But sorry, go ahead, Mindy.
which is not necessarily something you see a lot on the big screen nowadays, unfortunately, unless someone has a cape. or their laser beam.
Listen, and I love movies where people have a cape. I'm not gonna ding those at all. And I am, if you ask anyone who sees what I listen to or watch on Netflix or whatever, I am the opposite of snobby. I think what we decided with this movie, which is just like, we wanted to show a really great workplace movie where ambition, mentorship, there's romance in it. Like, that's what we wanted to write and to do. So it's funny, we get pulled into discussions, and we love talking about feminism and roles of all this, but we're like, this movie is really like funny and great. It's the kind of thing you can like bring your friends to. You can bring your parents to. It's such a fun movie that I'm just excited for people to see it.
And to that, a lot of it, when people talk about this film, they of course say, well, you were the first female writer in The Office. You were that. So for you, looking at that trajectory from there in your career and where you are here in your career, and I don't mean literally in your career, but where you are with $13 million of Amazon money in your career, how has that felt?
Okay, so one of the particular joys of writing this movie was I wrote a film where both my character and Emma's characters, I identified with completely. I identified completely with the woman who has her own show, who has a staff, who is exhausted, who's a little cranky, even though it's not appropriate to be, and kind of ungrateful and can lean and steer towards complacency. I completely identify with that side of Emma Thompson's character. But I also remember distinctly, painfully, what it's like to be an outsider, to be someone who wanted so badly to work in television and had no way, and I didn't come from a family that had any connections in the business. I didn't live near Hollywood, and just to have to fight and get in the door that way, and know what it's like to be the first female writer on a staff. So that was such a joy to be able to write both characters and know exactly how each of them should feel. And I think as a writer, you're just blessed to have that kind of situation. And I was like, I'm going to capitalize on this and write a movie. So that was
also
great.
the beautiful dilemma of, Mindy and I both had this common ground of often being the only women in the room or the only person of color or both. And so we both were kind of laughing about the irony of, in telling the story, we inadvertently created a lot of work for white guys, basically, because Mindy's character is the diversity hire.
Emma Thompson does kind of like, Emma Thompson would be, if we had the equivalent of Marie, as they do in France, in England, it would be Emma Thompson. But to that, though, actually, you talked earlier about it, that you knew from the beginning that you wanted Emma in this, and of course you were going to be in it. What is it like writing to that? Is that actually an easier process for you, or is it more difficult? Thinking, well, how would I oh, I'm writing this, but how am I going to get my character from A to B doing this, or get myself from A to B doing this?
I mean, I thought it was, writing anything is hard. I'm sure there's screenwriters here where it's like most writers hate writing, and I am included in that, and I just want it to be done. But it was easier and much more enjoyable because I could act out my part and I could act out Emma's part. So if you'd gone to my home 3 years ago and saw me in my room, it would just seem like I'd lost my mind to be acting out my part.
Did you do the thing like in King of Comedy where the Robert De Niro film, did you build like a late night set in your basement?
Yes, I'm a psychopath who has a late night set in my basement, like the King of Comedy. And then we shot that. No, but yeah, I mean, I am such a fan of comedy and especially of late night TV. I know so much about it. I researched so much about it for this movie because, as you know, sitcoms and late night TV are completely different.
Totally different. Totally.
And so to be able to research all that was also like to get to know what happened behind the scenes was a distinct pleasure for me.
And did you find out anything surprising from that?
Yeah, I found out, she's an amalgam of a lot of different late night talk show hosts and actually some sitcom stars. And I think you'll be able to recognize certain people in her performance, but also talk to Emma about where she drew inspiration. But one of the things that surprised me was how you can, as a late night talk show host, not know a single one of your writers. That's completely fine. Not just know them. You can decide you don't ever want to see them if that's how you want to run a show. And I thought that was really interesting because that's never been my experience.
And even physically, when we went to Jimmy Fallon opened his doors to us, and Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert, they let us come tour their sets and see how it works. And there was an old pathway from one of the late night shows where he could come down, never see the writers, go in his own secret entrance and appear on the stage and leave the same way and never run into a person. So we kind of recreated that with that hallway.
I don't think he does that, but he could do it if he wanted.
He could do.
So
You mean Colbert?
No, none of the ones I mentioned did a different.
Oh, a different one.
A different one. He
Yes.
was no
But,
longer on the air.
but here's some of the things about that. I mean, Colbert and Letterman and a few others, they were in those old theaters where like there were old hosts. I mean, you hear stories about Carson, like that Carson and his sidekick, that's what Larry Sanders was about. Like they never really even spoke off stage.
I am obsessed with the idea that you could be treasured by this country and watched, and everyone loves you and they're beloved, and you're in their bedrooms at night watching them and keeping them up to date on politics and everything, and that in life they could be so misanthropic and so difficult for everyone who works for them.
I once worked for someone. When I worked in radio in Canada, I once worked for someone, and if any Canadians here of 40 and over, you'll know who I mean, but I'm not saying his name, who was beloved like that, beloved. And I was his book producer, and Malcolm Gladwell was coming in. And Malcolm Gladwell was born in Canada. And Malcolm was very like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting this person. It's so great. And, he's so friendly on the radio and everything like that. And he sits down and he goes, I'll talk to you later, kid. I'm not interested. And poor Malcolm just sat there like crestfallen. And we literally had staff members who would go over and go, he's just very busy today and stuff like that. And but as soon as the light turned on, so glad to be here with you. It's such an enjoyment.
It's exhausting for them. They have to sit there and interview these celebrities. They don't give a damn about anything they're doing, but they have to pretend that they're really interested in like whatever brand they're endorsing or whatever. And it just gets really exhausting. So that's what's really fun about this movie is we get to see it from both. Yeah, exactly. You get to do a show every single night and pretend like you really care.
Like watching Jimmy Fallon just do what he does
He's incredible.
There's a whole audience come in, tries out jokes, that audience clears out, then the no one comes in for the taping. It's like such hard work, and that's something Mindy really captured was just this movie being an ode
I was going to say, and again, I'm not trying to turn this into like a French Forest film where it's all very like, Baudelaire left, right, and center, because it's a really funny, entertaining movie. It's like Working Girl or those kind of movies that you don't really see.
That was our
anymore.
reference. Thank you. That's
Thank
perfect.
you.
Okay, it's Working Girl 2. The Reckoning. I guess generationally you could have had like a cameo or something in there. But in that, I find often we don't talk about work. Like work is something we all do. And to talk about what work is and how work works, I found that really entertaining in the show because, yeah, it's entertaining, it's funny, and you guys really move it along, but it's also, this is a place where people go, and then they create this thing that you only see on that screen, and you know nothing of all that stuff, of 5 guys and 2 girls sitting in a room who honestly can't figure out how the dog is going to jump on the Velcro.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny when you're young. I'm so glad you brought that up because when you're young and I'm looking at a group of like very young people and you want to work on one of these shows, all you crave, or at least I felt this way. I craved the nitty-gritty details of like how you make things, how you got a job, how you create a show, and they tend to be things that people tend to gloss over because it feels boring to them. And I'm obsessed with process. The movie shows how you write a show, how you come up with a joke. There's so many montages of me working late into the night. And it's like what Nisha says, it's really an homage to hard work. I mean, it's one of the many things the movie's about. But I just really always wanted, I always, as a young person, was like, but how do you do it? How do you go to a writer's room? What does a writer's room look like? What do the offices look like? How do you come up with scripts? And so this movie really shows that. And I think that if you're a fan of TV, if you're a fan of comedy, you really get that taste is sort of satisfied.
It was one of our goals to inspire a generation of young women to go into late night comedy writing. So hopefully you watch this movie and think, I want to do that, and then go do it.
Maybe you put on the Amazon DVD extra, a whole like, here.
Yes.
Now, I'd be interested, how did you come to direct this film? I mean, you've got such a great career back in TV and stuff like that, but how did you guys get together and decide you wanted to do this?
Well, my first love and entree was indie film because, like Mindy, I had to sort of just create my own opportunities. So I wrote a script and directed it just so that I would have the opportunity to direct a movie. And then I was really lucky and pleased that it went to festivals and won prizes, and I got to sort of have this directing career because I think, like Mindy said, my parents came over from India. We sort of grew up in these families that just, you had no idea. I don't know what I was saying. I must have watched TV and thought the actors were making up the words. Like, I had no idea there were writers and that there were directors, that this whole industry existed. And so the only way for me to get in was to go to film school. So I went to NYU Film School, and that sort of helped me get in and make movies. And then with Mindy, I had directed the Mindy Project, and we got along. And I remember we talked about, I was like, hey, would you ever do a movie? And she was sort of thinking about it and telling me, and you said then.
Did you say like, well, I've got this idea for a heist movie where I'm a jeweler and I...
She said that she knew she was going to have to create her own opportunity in movies. And I remember being like, wow, that is really poignant that even at this height
And
of success,
sad.
having your own movie, your own show, that you're going to, do that. But she was always very clear and very, she worked so hard and just made sure she did it. And it's really inspiring.
And well, we met. We were meeting directors for the film, and we met with Nisha, and she brought her laptop and had. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but it had this PowerPoint presentation of.
Did you
images,
really have a PowerPoint presentation?
Images that inspired her.
Really?
And we had met a lot of other people, and they were kind of like easy breezy, like, oh, this is what I'll bring to it. And I just really responded to just the amount of effort. In Hollywood, I feel like
we're both like Indian nerds, and
no,
she
but
just
like, in Hollywood, there's a thing of like everybody
But
wants
I think that's
everyone to be
great.
effortless.
Yeah.
And I think effortless is one of the most overrated adjectives of all time.
And also,
what's wrong with showing
total
effort?
bullshit.
And total bullshit.
But I always respect people who say things like, "Yeah, I became an overnight sensation. It took me 15 years."
Yes,
right? It's
totally.
like that's at least someone who's willing to cop a little bit to it. All the stuff in the background, all the crappy jobs they had to do, all the times they had to hear the word no, et cetera, et cetera. And I think also to Nisha's point, and people who create their own opportunities, because that's what you need to do today. You really do.
Dominic, I totally agree. So she just showed a ton of hustle, and I loved her taste, and obviously had a great working relationship with her on the show. And
I remember saying to Mindy, I was like, I'm Molly, like this is my story. And
Yeah,
she was like,
that
no, I'm
was so
Molly.
moving.
So we both were,
You guys, it was a Spartacus moment.
both were Molly. Yes.
I am Molly.
I
I
am
am Molly. Now, that's a T-shirt you could sell on Amazon. We're going to take some questions from you guys in a little bit. It's a big room, and there's a lot of you in here. So
a lot of beer.
and a lot of beer.
So these questions better be appropriate, guys.
Exactly, because it's being live streamed. But please, when you ask your question, ask a question. It's very easy to give a statement, and we all have opinions, and we're all willing to hear them. And you can go on our Instagrams and give them. But ask a question. Before we go to some questions, though, is now you've done this, what's next?
What's next? Okay, wow.
I know you've just sold the movie. It just debuted last night.
I know. God, I thought I was doing enough. All right.
Hey, you just the one who sat here and said you were all interested in detail and
No, it's
process.
true. Totally, you're 100% right. I'm working on an adaptation of 4 Weddings and a Funeral for Hulu.
Yeah.
And I am working on a half-hour show for Netflix with my friend Lang Fisher about a teenage Indian girl.
So you're literally going to cover every streamer.
Yes. I hadn't thought of that, but you're
And then A Wrinkle in Time will, of course, be on Disney Plus, so you'll have that
Yes.
one. You can just check, you go to Brick Wall and check
That's
them off.
my,
Exactly.
my career goal is just to appear on every streaming platform.
Excellent.
Never escape.
ESPN Plus. It's the Mindy Kaling basketball show.
Exactly.
Directed by Nisha.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions? Please put your hand up. You get the first one. Your proximity wins. Also, the New York Times pin wins, too. That's nice. Yeah. I know we're snobby now, too. Like, yeah, it's entertaining. It's the New York Times.
This goes to both of you. Who would you want to see
Who do we want to see be the host of a female-led primetime late night talk show?
That's like, I mean, it's shocking that we did.
So the issue is like all the people that you would want to do it have these amazing careers already. Like I saw Can You Ever Forgive Me, which is one of my favorite movies this year. I literally cannot wait between the time it takes for Melissa McCarthy to make movies. Yeah. She's so good. And so, yes, would I like to see her every single night on my TV? Yes. Would she ever do it? Hell no. She makes tons of money doing movies.
But having said that, you know, I remember I know a couple of guys in the Roots, and I remember Questlove saying one of the reasons why they took Jimmy up on the offer to be the band is they were like, we're older now, we have kids, and like, you know, the music industry isn't about selling records, it's about touring, and we just don't want to be away that much. Like, I have a little kid now too, and I'm like, I hate being away from Isabella. Like, I hate being away from my baby, and I know you hate being away from yours. Like, it's terrible. And so for some people, I could see why that actually could be a good thing, because you know, basically, except for occasionally doing like an on-spot thing like Conan does, you're basically walking in the same office every day.
No, it's a great.
I mean, I would love to see Amy Poehler every night hosting late night talk shows. I'd love to see Maya Rudolph hosting one. I'd love to see Tina Fey host one. I mean, there's like so many amazing female comedians that I just can't get enough of. I was telling Mindy, I'm hoping that this movie makes it so the way I think, you know, once we started casting black actors to play the president, we kind of made it so. And so I'm hoping like, okay, we're doing this, and now it's going to just be out there in culture, and people will see it. It's a reality, and it will become reality.
Do we have it? You, Madame, right here.
My question is to echo what you said earlier about being hungry for details. Can you talk about the inception of this film and when you first put pen to paper?
Yeah, absolutely. So Emma Thompson is my favorite living actor. And so I'm sure as many of you, when you think about your favorite living actors and they're not acting as much, I didn't see her in as much. I'd seen her in Harry Potter. But I just knew I'd seen her in interviews she had spoken at. I think Meryl Streep was getting like a Lifetime Achievement Award. It was something like as obscure as that. And of course I watched, Emma had to like speak for that. And her speech was so funny and she was so great. And she's probably like, you know, 55, 56 at this time. And I was like, that is something I really want to see more of. I love seeing her in the smaller roles that she does. And she was obviously great in Harry Potter. But I just wanted to see her in something juicier. And then that was kind of that was the inspiration. And when you're used to writing your own projects for yourself, it's not a big leap to then start writing them for other people. And so I just started thinking like, what would be a great role for her, and something that feels natural even though it's completely made up, which is her being the host of a late night talk show. And then anyone I ran that by seemed to be like, I would love that show. That makes total sense. People have this sense from her that she is like urbane and really smart and really quick, and that's kind of the best qualities you need for
all of which is true too.
All of which is true
Yeah,
of her
benefit,
personally. Yeah. And then I just started with that general idea, and then when I had a little downtime from the Mindy project, I always think of Saturday as like a work day, so I would work on that and just start thinking of scenes and scenarios, and then from that I kind of broke out the movie, and I did old-fashioned way with cards on a board and did the structure of the film, and then that's kind of how I did it.
How long did the whole process take?
Everyone is asleep.
No,
to ask. I'm so sorry.
I honestly, I'm like you. I always want to know the behind-the-scenes process. Like last night when the government shutdown ended, right? And they talked about, okay, the Senate's going to. I'm like, so what happens? Like, does it get literally 3 pieces of paper get put in a car and driven over to the White House? Like, and who opens the gate? Because there's still a shutdown on until he signs the damn thing, right? Like, I always want to know how that stuff works, right?
Yeah.
And then does it have to go back to Nancy Pelosi? Which it turns out it does. Like, there's a whole like. So it's not like, oh, we say the government's open again. It's like, no, it takes actually another 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it really.
Yeah, exactly.
So for that, how long did that whole process take?
You know, I would work on it. When you work on something for a couple of hours once a week, it's going to take a long time to write. But because I loved the movie so much and was so inspired by it, things came really quickly. It didn't feel like an assignment. So I would write like 3 scenes on a Sunday, then wait. Then after work one day, I'd wrap, you know, around 8 or 9, then go home and write a couple more scenes. This is before I had a child, so it's a lot easier to be productive.
You can't do anything when you have a child.
No.
Like.
Yeah, no, you have to love yourself.
Mindy shot
I want to become a talk show host
Yes.
because actually I figure that is actually a job you can have with a young baby.
Yes.
Because you can actually have them beside you.
You love that job and you're really good at it. Should you do that?
Yeah, just do that.
Well, you know, if you'd like to help another white guy get a talk show.
That's what the world wants from us right now.
Exactly. That's what they're expecting.
If you really want to flip focus on the movie.
Right. We're like,
At least I have a British passport like Emma. So
Mindy had a 3-month-old and came to set every day and shot an indie film in 25 days, which is no easy feat to be on camera.
Nisha was pregnant the entire time we were shooting the movie. So
That's true. The giant sweater, because I was hiding it because I didn't want anyone to be worried about me.
Do we have another question? again, everyone's got their questions at the front. You guys are plants. It's awesome.
So it's been about a year since Me Too and Time's Up really kind of exploded in the conversation, and obviously you're working on this movie before that, and the film addresses those topics, directly and sort of indirectly. Were there things that you revisited once that kind of came into the cultural conversation or changed about the script?
I don't think we added anything because of Time's Up. I think, the movie is so much about feminism and intersectional feminism and all these things that are very interesting to us, but also we wanted to make like a big, broad comedy for people who weren't necessarily so interested in the Time's Up movement, but wanted to see a great comedy movie. So I think I trusted the fact that that was going to be the subtext of a lot of what we were doing without having to add any more. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think we changed slightly was when she's seeing the article on the computer, we added the "Welcome to Me Too, Catherine," which was originally just a break of the story and the affair. But it's like seamlessly part of the plot that it didn't stand out as like, oh, we have to really go out of our way to address these things. It all just became part of it.
Well, that's one of the things. I know you joked about it, how you hate effortlessness, but there is a degree of effortlessness to this movie, which I think makes it so entertaining. But really good comedies are like that. It's like really good sci-fi. Really good sci-fi is actually like The Walking Dead is not actually about zombies. Sorry to break that up from you. Like there's a deeper thing going on there, right? And I think with really good comedy, there's also that you can have a huge discussion about intersectional feminism, about a myriad of topics that most people would say they don't even know how to spell, let alone talk about, and you make them laugh. Like that's the best type of comedy. And I just want to congratulate you guys because you scored on that.
So nice.
Yeah.
I meanwhile thought The Walking Dead was about zombies. I guess I'm stupid.
Sorry.
But I want to hear
Yeah.
what it's actually about. But thank you. That's our goal.
It's about hygiene
It's about hygiene.
and the lack thereof in the southern United States around certain parts of Atlanta, clearly.
Interesting.
I mean, it is incredible how quickly they have to change sometimes because our 24-hour news cycle has really affected the way the late night shows happen. That was pretty surprising to find. And these women who are on the staffs writing jokes, like finding out that some of them write 50 jokes a day and not one will make it on the air sometimes, and that's just
And that's for all writers, not just for women.
Yes,
like
no,
that's just
not all the women.
but just that the writers
But
will
they
have
were
that.
working really hard and just constantly pitching.
We had at our disposal, which was very nice because we were shooting an indie movie in 25 days in New York. We had like Mike Shoemaker from Seth Meyers' show, open arms, come talk to our writers, come see our sets, Colbert's people, and I think honestly anyone we would have reached out to would have done it. Jim, so that was great.
We had to
And
create our own late night talk show set in 5 weeks, right, without any sort of crazy amazing budget to do it.
And people do. They spend ages doing that and focus grouping them, and then you watch how it gets tweaked over the years, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I thought was really, really great about the show is the world that you entered into of Catherine Emma's show, AKA. It was seamless. Like you believed it. You right away believed like this woman had been on television for years because the way her personality worked. And I'm old enough to remember Tom Snyder, and there was a lot of Tom Snyder there. I felt like when I was a kid. I don't know if you remember Tom Snyder, but Tom Snyder was a late night guy, and Tom Snyder's main goal was to make his crew laugh. He actually didn't care about the guests half the time. He would and suddenly you'd hear this guy off camera laughing, and Snyder would perk up. And it felt like there was a lot of that kind of stuff there. But that world was real, and that's I think one of the hardest things to do.
That's so nice. It's like a real testament to our production designer EJ,
It was a lot of work, yeah.
and our cinematographer, and Nisha's great taste.
Well, Mindy scared me by saying comedians are very picky about this, and if we don't get it exactly right and anything doesn't feel real or isn't real, they're going to really get on us about that. So I wanted to make sure every detail down to it was exactly the way a late night show runs.
You guys have both talked about the short amount of time, the 25 days you shot the film in. Do you think coming out of TV gave you an advantage in that because of the quick turnarounds?
Oh, definitely for me as a performer, because when you're on a movie, and I've been in 2 huge movies between Oceans and Wrinkle, where you shoot like two pages a day, and it's like great. Maybe 2 pages in like 3 or 4 days. So coming from, you have that muscle when you're in single camera TV, where you're at the office, we would shoot sometimes like 10, 11 pages a day, and we didn't shoot that many.
No, but also we had Emma Thompson and Mindy. Everybody came incredibly prepared. If Emma didn't nail it in 1 or 2 takes, we would have never made this movie in 25 days. She really brought it, and all of the actors came. We had a no sides rule, so nobody could come to set with pieces of paper and their lines on. Everyone had to come on point, lines memorized, ready to go, so that the rehearsal was an actual rehearsal, and we could run.
Guys, there's a lady over here against the pole.
Yeah, I just had a question about your character, Mindy. I noticed there was this idea of bringing yourself
And Emma was the person who liked to keep things sort of categorized and impersonal,
Yeah.
And they talk about it as a generational difference, but I was just wondering for you, is it anything beyond that? Like that, what else contributed to her character's feeling that you have to go out there and be yourself?
Well, so what a great question and great observation. I think that when you're young, when I started working in the office when I was 24, my love of the show and being a comedy writer, finally, I felt like, was mixed into my social life. I didn't care about my social life. I only cared about my professional life because as young, ambitious people, it's like you would give anything just to have that break. So all my friends, BJ Novak, who became my best friend, was from the show. That was my entire life. But as you get older and you get more successful, you sort of create natural distance. And what I think is kind of fun about the movie is that Molly almost has it too much. She takes things so personal.
I think a little bit of what's being asked, and if I get this wrong, I apologize, as I mansplain it, is that the notion of yourself working on The Office and stuff like that, bringing those things, and the things that you went through, positive and perhaps also negative in the early parts of your career, how you brought those to this.
Yeah, well, I want to be so clear that my experiences on The Office were overwhelmingly positive. The experiences that the writer in this movie goes through were observations that I had that I kind of dramatized as a writer for comic effect, and because I thought that would make a really interesting story. And by the way, a lot of women are going through experiences like that. Yes. But throughout my career, because I haven't just worked at The Office, I've worked at other places where the writers weren't as quote woke, as young people would say, and don't make as much room for for voices like mine. And so that was like very cathartic, actually, because I could handpick all the little experience and the little injustices that I had felt throughout my career, put them in the movie, and then just be able to say, well, no, it really happened to me.
And that I think that's one thing we really shared in common was that, because when I came from indie film, my crew looked a lot like the women in this room. It was sort of a very young, diverse, like amazingly balanced gender crew. And then I went into TV, and it was often my entire crew was sort of older white men, and I was like, okay, it was just sort of a little bit of a thing, and they were incredibly positive experiences as well. But it just is this odd thing when you start to realize, like, wow, I'm the only woman in this room over and over and over and over. And Mindy really captured all that sort of poignantly and very funnily in the script.
And we have so many friends, allies, people who've mentored us, given us opportunities, who are older white men. Like, we feel very grateful. This is just, sometimes when we're up here, it feels like it's that we don't have those experiences. But even in the movie, there are none of the characters in the movie who set out to be obstacles or adversaries to Molly end up being that way. We really wanted to show, like, one of them becomes a love interest, and a lot of them become her friends. So
and also Molly, too, has a little chip on her shoulder in the beginning with okay, this is going to be this environment, and then grows herself and opens up 100%. To these guys.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was both of our experiences as well. But also women mentored us. I mean, Amy Poehler, helped me do my first pilot and helped me break into TV as well. And this is there are just incredible women out there really trying and helping, not giving up on that slate right there. It was such a beautiful way to say it. It was just to keep working, do your work. Don't get discouraged by where and how it's received, but just keep doing it for yourself and keep putting it out there and keep honing your craft and getting better and better and better. Because that's what's going to break in for you. You're going to be breaking in on your work and creating your own opportunities.
Whenever I'm asked what advice would I give to young people, I always laugh, because if I had tried to give advice to young people when I was young, I was so focused and determined about what I wanted to do. I'd be like, shut up, I'll be fine. I don't need to hear from you. And so, and people telling me work hard, I always thought no, there's a secret that you're not telling us that you want to keep for yourself, so none of us can be successful. I would literally think that. I was both admired and suspicious of people that were well known and had my career. And the practical advice I have is that and this is for men and women here, and I don't know how useful it will be, but is that there's a lot of, when you're in Hollywood and you're trying to act or write, there's a lot of stuff around the work, like parties, schmoozing, lunches, those things, and it is not the work. And a lot of times you think I gotta go to that party, I have to look really cute or look handsome and go talk to people up and schmooze and whatever, and that might work for some people. It never worked for me. I paid no attention to any of that stuff, and when everyone was out doing that stuff, I was just at home writing spec scripts, in reading and watching an enormous amount of TV and film. And that's my only advice, is just to not get distracted.
We're going to wrap up. We want to thank all of you guys for joining us for this panel.
Thank you.
We're going to be doing more panels over the rest of Sundance. Come and join us at 1 p.m. every day. We're going to have a great panel after this with my colleague Amanda for Women in Film. But before we go, I mentioned it earlier, we talked about hashtag Stella moments. What was the one moment from both of you, the one moment from the making of this film that you're like, that was something I'll never forget?
Wow, there were so many.
Yeah, so many.
Emma Thompson dancing with the late night band was kind of
amazing.
that was pretty amazing. But you know what? This is probably too political, but there was a moment where Emma, she turned. There was a scene where the camera was behind her. This is too long for your hashtag moment, but she she turned, and there was a little bit of her neck, wrinkled like the way our necks do when we turn, and somebody. In that department mentioned to her, oh, when you turn too much, your neck wrinkles, like that's what you're supposed to do. That's your job to tell the actor when they do that. And Emma had the most stunning response where she said, are we living in a world where we're pretending that women's necks don't wrinkle when they turn? And I just, that blew me away, because I was like, thank you. And she said, and I don't want to contribute to that world, because we don't want to perpetuate that, and we can't cause these problems for other women. We do have wrinkles in our neck, and when we turn, the more we see it, the more we understand that it is a normal thing.
Thank you, guys.
Shadow.